John, sorry about that. I was sort of double booking myself a little bit there tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jason. Good to see you. I saw you walking around the streets of New York earlier. That
Yeah,
was exciting.
thank
So
you.
good stuff. Good stuff. Big
I,
show
I,
tonight.
yeah,
Big
let's get
show.
right
Big
into it.
show. Yeah. So this is a pretty interesting story. A lot of people have been saying, we'd really like to see John Cullen on the Dark Horse podcast with Bret Weinstein, or see Bret Weinstein come on, hypothetically speaking, or come on this show, or what have you, any combination of the above.
Mm.
And it turns out that a couple months ago, Bret sent me a DM in Twitter
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Can you talk?"
Mm.
Which was kind of like out of the blue. And so the net of it is, we had a little bit of a chat on Twitter on DM, and then we ended up on Zoom, and we spoke for about 45 minutes on Zoom privately. And I think I heard from him once after that. And then after I took off the disguise, I invited him to come on the show a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
and heard nothing back.
Hmm.
I thought it was weird. It's like, you spend 45 minutes on a Zoom call and you're talking to somebody and it's just the two of you, and it just seemed like he understood what I was saying, was interested in it. He's the one who asked me, "Can you talk?"
Right.
And so after reaching out to him a couple times and saying, you want to come on the show, you can come on the show with Heather. Do you want to participate in a round table with Dr. Dave Cullen and
That could be great.
right, a couple other luminary type people, right? So no response.
Weird. Is he friends with Laura Ingraham, maybe?
Well, maybe. So we're gonna take a look at that. So we're gonna take a
Maybe.
look at why would that be, and I don't want to pass any judgment. I don't really want to bias this for people. So the best thing I think for us to do is to just share with everybody, share with the audience, the conversation that I had, the DM conversation. There's nothing private, there's no, there's nothing in there that's salacious or anything like that. So it's us talking about the pandemics and talking
Scandalous.
about the hypotheses and what have you. I I will ask you, though, as we go through the slides, I'm going to ask you to double check and double edit. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead of you and tell you if there's a
Okay.
slide. I just want to make sure that we don't dox his phone number, because he sent me his
Sure.
phone number in one of those.
Definitely not.
Yeah, in fact, it is in there. It is in there. So
Ooh.
do me a favor. Yeah.
Ooh.
So it's only like page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Audience can't see that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Keep going. The page, yeah, it's right after the page with Bret Weinstein. The next one is the one you don't want anybody to see.
Got it.
I apologize. I put that in there.
That's okay. We could get rid of it right now.
Yeah, because you're a PDF genius.
Oh no, I don't have the paid version here. All right, but we'll know when we see his face here. That won't go on screen. Got it.
Cut away and go. Yeah. Okay. So we'll cut away after that. All right. So why don't we walk through the presentation? Let me explain to people kind of the setup here. And there's been some things happening this week that we need to talk about. So why don't we kind of step through the deck? And when we get to the patron-only portion of the show with the people who sponsor this work, right? Keep in mind, guys, I've got less than 1,000 people that sponsor my work. That's it. So that, we're talking about, there's a few hundred people out there, less than 1,000 people that make this possible. So if you're not one of them, consider it for $5 a month or so. Right? It's less than one Bente latte at Starbucks. I know that. Right? Right? That
And
costs
thank
more
you
than
to the people who are sponsoring.
Indeed. Couldn't do it without you guys. Couldn't do it. So
not.
when when we go to this patron-only portion of the show, we're going to play the conversation between me and Bret Weinstein. So this is the discussion you guys wanted to hear as a show. Is the two of us talking about, you wanted to hear it. You wanted to hear me and Bret Weinstein talk about COVID, bird flu, crimson contagion, what was happening. Right. We had that conversation. And then he doesn't want to talk to me anymore. And it's like, well, I want you guys to be the judge. So our patrons are going to have the opportunity to hear that conversation. The people on YouTube are going to get the opportunity to see some of the DMs between us when he said, hey, can you talk?
That's great.
Right. And again, there's nothing salacious here. It's a friendly conversation. I respect him. He respects me. We have a great chat. That's why I was kind of shocked that there was no follow-up afterwards. Weird. It seemed weird. And again, the audience will decide. Or they'll say...
He's still around, right? He's still doing his podcast. And I've seen him on maybe like Lex Friedman or something not that long ago.
Very much so. So we'll take a closer look at that. I'm real excited working on the new book, The Cloaca Diaries. Very excited about.
Oh, I get it now. Yeah. I get it now.
So, yeah, very excited about the new book. So
I thought it's monologues. Cloaca monologues is what you mean.
Well, that's the next one. That's coming out. This is the
why
Cloaca
I didn't get it. That's why I didn't get it.
That's okay. It's a spinoff. So excited about that. But this is a big breaking story. I don't think this got any coverage yet.
What is that?
India is now the most populated country on the planet.
They're going to beat up
India
China.
India now has more people.
Wow.
Than China. So take a bow, Narendra Modi. You guys, you're obviously very good at something. Right? And God bless you guys. So India is now the biggest or most populated country. Not the biggest, but the most populated. And then this story came out today. Amy Eisinger published this in the New York Post. And she said that highly pathogenic avian flu was found in New York City. And this highly pathogenic strain of avian flu has been circulating in New York City for years, scientists say. And it says your pet owner should be on alert, but I'm not really worried about the poodles. New York City virus hunters found the avian flu in samples of bird poop that were collected between 2022 and 2023. The group published their findings in the Journal of Virology on Wednesday. But we know we just had the deadliest avian influenza outbreak in 2022 from NPR. We've been looking at that article for months now.
Do you believe there'd be a second date if the virologist said, hey, this is going really well. Do you want to come back to my apartment and look at my bird poop collection?
Yeah, definitely.
Who's doing that?
It's a smooth move. It's a smooth
collecting the bird poop.
All right, so net here, for those of you who haven't seen the show in a couple weeks or whatever and are trying to get caught up, for 3.5 years, I thought what was really happening behind the scenes, the number one comorbidity, was 1918 H1N1 reconstructed pandemic influenza. And then a couple of key clues came to the table that took us to 1917. And as soon as I realized it, Amy realized it, and it was like out with the old, in with the new. And
in with the flu.
Yeah, and with the new flu, the different flu. And the thing is, not that many people even realize that there were two influenzas back at the Spanish flu. In fact, that video of President Trump saying 1917 Spanish flu, 1917 Spanish flu, was making fun of him. As if, what are you talking about? It's the 1918 Spanish flu. No, there were two different strains of influenza. Obviously, they briefed him on this. He doesn't come to the White House knowing all this stuff. Nobody knew this. There's two strains of influenza. And the one in 1917 is a bird flu. Lo and behold. And that bird flu causes something called encephalitis lethargica.
Right.
That's
Sleeping.
the movie Awakenings. Awakenings, right? Sleeping sickness. Remember the movie Awakenings?
Yeah. We played a clip or something a week ago or so.
So that's the most severe presentation of sleeping sickness. That is a super severe case. A low grade case is lethargic, and you wake up at 2 a.m.
A lot of people have that, I think.
Because a lot of people thought they had one virus and might have had two at the same time, right? We saw that metagenomic test that had so many viruses in that person, right? We had the bamboo virus, right? With the bamboo mosaic virus, favorite, right? We had SARS-CoV-2, we had influenza, we had all those different viruses. There's all kinds of things in people at any given moment. You got all kinds of stuff in you. This notion that it's this or it's that, what if it's a combination of two things?
Well, right.
Right? So that could be like a really bad combination, and that is what happens. So when the president was talking about that, one of the things you have to sort of say is, so who's he talking to? Joe Rogan?
Us?
Who is he talking? Well, who was talking about 1918 in Spanish flu? That he's saying 1917 Spanish flu. He keeps saying 1917. Is he correcting Megyn Kelly? Was she constantly talking about 1918? Who was talking about 1918 Spanish flu?
I don't know. Who?
Anybody?
No.
Anybody?
What were they?
Who?
I don't know.
I think we were the only ones.
But he wasn't talking to you, was he?
I was telling Laura Ingraham.
Huh.
He might be realizing Laura.
Wow.
What if he's on to her? He's trying to get a message. It's not 1918 Spanish flu. It's 1917 Spanish. Who's he trying to get this message to? Julian Assange? Edward Snowden? Kim.com? You think he's talking to Richard E. Bright? Who's he talking to?
Not
Helen Branswell?
He's a jerk.
Who's he talking to? Who's he talking to? Who's he trying to... Was Tucker Carlson talking about 1918 reconstructed pandemic influenza?
Is Trump watching John Cullen Investigates right now?
No,
hey, Mr. President.
But Laura Ingraham is saying him. So she keeps saying to me, what is it? What is it? What is it? What do you think is happening? What do you think is happening? And like a dope, I'm telling her it's 1918 reconstructed pandemic influenza. She tells him that.
And he says no.
And she doesn't tell me that.
So, okay, right. So you it was a long time ago, right, that you found that whole presentation from Ted where he's like, hey, we got this guy, the British shoebox with the thing, and that was and going and digging up the dead people from Alaska, reconstructing it. But then when we started talking about Anton Dilger, that's when you went back.
1917. The goose, right? We found the different family tree, whole different genetic tree, whole different strain. It's a goose from Alaska, 1917, different strain of influenza. And the irony is the guy I was accusing, Taubenberger, is the guy who documents all this avian flu stuff and the encephalitis lethargica association with it. So that's kind of the irony.
Here's the thing. Because of the late start, which I apologize for, we could keep going and start a little late on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and odyssey.com/crowdsource the truth and all the others. But let's get to maybe some of the...
Yeah, we can go 3 more minutes. I've only got 3 or 4 more slides before it's Patreon content, so it's perfect. All right, so this is kind of important for people to understand. Recently, the wellness company has included Tamiflu in their kits, or maybe it's an option, right? So they've got this kit of stuff, and it's like $250 or whatever, and they've added Tamiflu to it. I don't know if it's another $25 or whatever to get the Tamiflu version. The issue here is that certain versions of the H5N1 virus have shown resistance to Tamiflu. And so I'm not sure why they would have chosen that. It seems, again, I'm not a pharmacist. I'm not a pharmacologist.
The
I'm
old
not a
stock.
doctor. It just seems, you know what it is? You can get, I think you can now get generic oseltamivir. So if you can get generic oseltamivir,
Well,
that's going to be very...
None of this is medical advice, and we're not doctors.
No. I'm reading literature, and the literature that I'm going to show you the literature on the next slide. Go to the next slide. So the literature is from Citarap. It's from Osterholm.
Oh,
so Osterholm tells us that H7N9 has shown resistance. And we've seen H5N1 resistance. So again, this isn't me. I'm not coming up with this stuff. I'm just telling you guys I found research that indicates that the choice of oseltamivir, some of these strains have shown resistance. That's all. I'm not a pharmacologist. I'm not a pharmacist. So I'm just telling you there's a bunch of research out there that says that. That's all. It wasn't on me. What the hell do I know? Now, the next slide, we'll wrap it up and we'll go over to the patron-only portion. Last week's show, we talked about Peter Daszak, and was he potentially America's hero in that he kind of bailed out the guys in Langley. And then this week, Congress gave him sort of a public flagellation. They said, we're going to take away all your EcoHealth money and your very, very bad boys, and we're not going to give you any more stuff to go in the bat caves, and no more money from the U.S. government anymore. And so I think Peter Daszak, our hero, is going to sail off into the sunset. Maybe next week we'll go yacht shopping. Maybe on the YouTube thing we'll go yacht shopping and see what kind of yacht can Peter Daszak get with the $150 million they probably put in a Swiss bank account. So we'll take a look at that. All right, this is the last. Yeah, that's the last slide we'll do. This is the setup for the Bret Weinstein stuff, and so I got a message from him. In fact, why don't you show people the next slide is okay. The next slide is safe. And that was him reaching out to me. And this was the beginning, right? Just that slide, none further.
Just cue it up here before we...
Yeah, none further than that. So this is Bret, right? So this is Bret, and we'll end on this one, reaching out to me. And so this was on February the 29th. And he says,
were you in
John,
like a group chat with him or something that he's asking if there's a private?
No. So
he's hitting you on a leap year. Look at that. I like it.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
You got to wait another 4 years for that.
For the anniversary of that conversation. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
he's living in a time warp.
It's possible. And keep in mind, Bret has 1 million followers, right? I don't have that many people. He follows me, and he has 1 million followers.
That's a lot to keep track of.
1 million followers. So he sends me a message. Hey, John, do we have a private conversation going somewhere? I can't find it. And I wrote back, I don't think so. I had a chat with Heather a while back. What's cooking? And he wants to know, can we do Signal? And we end up having this conversation, which I'll share with our patrons when we go over. We'll look at these DMs. And then we get on a Zoom call together. And I'm going to play that Zoom call for our patrons to hear. I mean, like I said, this is basically the show you guys wanted, was what's Bret Weinstein going to say when he hears and sees all this stuff? You're gonna get to hear it. I mean, there's not a lot of video content, so that's why it's kind of a patron-only type of thing. And I think the patrons are going to enjoy hearing this very... you can't have a more frank conversation between two adult men, right? So we don't know each other. It's our first time talking.
What if both of them were named Frank?
Then that would be fascinating. I remember there was a lesbian folk singer named Frank back in the day, and she was one of the first really butch lesbian performers. Her name was
totally
Frank.
Sideways.
I think it was PHRANK or something. And she was hardcore, man. She broke a lot of the glass ceiling for the lesbian community. Hats off to her. So
I have a
we'll go over
friend
the
whose
only
daughter is
portion.
Francesca. She's Frankie. Funny little kid.
Yeah, we'll go when we go the patron only thing. I think this is really going to be important. It's a 42-minute conversation, something like that, and we're going to break it down together. So looking forward to doing this together with the patrons. Thank you guys for joining us.
Wonderful. All right, there we go.